Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. Let's see who we have on tonight. We have Killer, great to have you on. Killer, thanks for moderating. We have Mo Green, great to see you, Mo Green. Gene T, great to have you on too. We have Jacob, great to see you. Tiny Demolition Lover, hope you're well up there in Scotland. We have also Chrisol, great to see you, Chrisol. We have Beer Wizard, wow. I remember Beer Wizard, I haven't seen you in a long time. Great to have you back again. We have Mark, great to see you. Enzo the God, great to have you on. CJM, great to see you, CJ. We have also, let me see, Colin, Audrey, great to have you on, Audrey. Hope you're well today. Thanks for all the comments on YouTube as well. We have Jan, great to see you. Jan, sorry, great to see you. Adrian, great to have you on. Maria, great to have you on. Pero, great to see you. Raven 1983 Witch, great to see you too. We also have, let me see, we're up to 132. Hey, John O'Sullivan, great to see you. John Reagan Elite, great to see you. Derek Orr, great to have you on. Chatty Rat, I see. So I'm going to have to go down to the bottom because there's so many on tonight. Mark, Wilkie, Mike Higgins, great to see you. Number Free, great to have you on. And so many more. Hey, what's wrong with my browser? Oh, we have a super chat from Valerio. Hey, Valerio, thanks so much for that. Hi, Max. Boris looks like a never-ending story. It's true. It's like he's coated in Teflon, but he's made of Teflon because you think every week he's going to go and he doesn't. And I think what happens is at the beginning of the week, we have this high point where some news story has come out over the weekend and it builds up to somewhere in the middle of the week, so up to about Wednesday when there's Prime Minister's questions, and you think, okay, this is the moment Boris Johnson is going to resign. He's going to resign, he's going to resign. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's a lull and we go back into normal mode again. And then on Sunday, Monday again, it repeats like the week before where, yes, he's going to definitely resign this week. And we've been going on like this for months and he hasn't resigned yet. So I'm getting a bit worried because, the live stream, I hope you all enjoyed the live stream with Political X last Tuesday. But generally on the live streams, I say, okay, this, what more can he do? And the latest, allegations, of course, is blackmail from Number 10, which is serious. But is it enough to push Boris Johnson out? I don't know. Valeria, so thanks so much for that super chat. Ask Sue Gray. Yes. When is Sue Gray going to release her report? Nobody knows. I don't even think Sue Gray herself knows. It's not Teflon Max, it's pure slippery slime that he's covered in. I think so too. And the more you try to remove it, the more it seems to regenerate. It's Friday night again. It is. Greg, hope you're well. Who is Sue Gray? Never heard of her. I've never heard of her either. So guys, I hope you're all very well tonight. Remember, you can hit me with a super chat and I'll read it out during the stream. And if you want, you can become a Patreon. And I'm thinking of opening up another option on YouTube. There's an option on YouTube to become a subscriber on YouTube. So I'm going to have a look into that because it might be, some people don't want to use Patreon. They might want to use that instead. Of course, there's no obligation. But if you do, you get access to Discord. And we have, we're expanding Discord in different ways, trying to add more to it. There's some new features coming out that we want to take advantage of as well. Anyway, so I want to start off with this story. You've probably heard about it. Research into Johnson's planned Irish Sea Bridge cost taxpayers £900,000. So Boris Johnson wanted to build a bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland, and it cost £900,000 for the consultancy. And at the end they said, no, we're not. It's not feasible, and it didn't cost 900. It didn't need to cost £900,000 to discover that. So it says here nearly £900,000 of taxpayers' money was spent on a survey commissioned by Boris Johnson to find out if it would be too expensive to build a bridge or tunnel between Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Department for Transport said the research into the feasibility of a fixed link cost £896,681. Why don't the Tories pay for this? Why is it the taxpayer has to pay for this? You know, if they went ahead and built a bridge and it was built, then you can understand, because it's something that's, you know, the taxpayer pays for it, and there's some value out of it, or at least there's something that we can look at, something we can use. But instead, like, this is money down the drain. It's wasted money. So why don't the Conservative Party pick up the bill? You know, some of Boris Johnson's donors could easily pay for this. But no, the taxpayer has to pay for it. The Rail Network Chair, Sir Peter Hendy, said the investigation, which found that the bridge would cost £335 billion, while a tunnel would require a budget of about £209 billion. I actually thought a tunnel would be more expensive, but... No, bridge, yeah, would be much more expensive. No, but I was thinking a tunnel would take much more time, but then, no, it's probably... Yeah, a tunnel would be much cheaper because you just drill. His report concluded that the project would be impossible to justify, as the benefits would not possibly outweigh the costs. Yeah, like, so you're building a bridge. So this is the idea behind it. We're going to build a bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland. You know, and whose brilliant idea was this? A Brexiteer. A Brexiteer. So a Brexiteer who has pushed Scotland, is pushing Scotland out of the Union, and has thrown Northern Ireland into a position where it's more likely to join the rest of Ireland. It's actually sped up a United Ireland. And yeah, we're going to build a bridge between the two of them. Okay. In addition, the huge expense, an inquiry also noted that the necessary work would be incredibly challenging. Beer Wizard, thanks so much for that super chat. How long does Johnson have to go before the Tories realised what a disgusting individual he is? Please have a beer. Thank you so much, Beer Wizard. I will indeed. How long? The problem is if your barometer, if your yardstick or your meter rule, your measuring tape is how disgusted the Tories will become, then the Tories have, you know, a very, very low bar, or a very high bar. I don't know which way I would put it. You know, it takes a lot to disgust the Tories. You know, these are the people who voted to stop, you know, hungry children getting free school meals. Okay, poor children, they voted against free school meals for poor children. So, you know, it takes a lot to disgust a Tory, okay? They have a huge tolerance for disgusting things. So I think it would take a lot to for them to throw Boris out because they're disgusted. It's more likely that they'll throw him out when he becomes a drag on the party. Now, he's already become a drag on the party. We've seen a number of by-elections where the seats the Tories held on, or the Tories had MPs lose their seats. We've seen council seats flip to the Labour Party, flip to the Liberal Democrats, flip to the Greens. And, you know, at that stage, if I was a Tory in a constituency where I had a majority of something like 100 or 200 or even less, or 1,000 even, I'd be extremely concerned, and I'd want Johnson out very quickly. Because as soon as Johnson goes out, my position would be a bit stronger, because I'd no longer be associated with Johnson, and he's toxic. And why are they holding on to him? Is it because they want to blame him for all the crap that's coming? And, you know, there is a lot more crap, especially related to Brexit coming. I had a video today where, I think it was dropped today, where there was the checks for it dropped today for there are more checks coming in there are more checks coming in July, in September and November. And there are problems at the ports already, and this is just going to get worse. And it's interesting how the media is not really covering this. Their European media is covering it, but the BBC are not covering it. ITV are not covering it. Why is that? You know, I'm going to show you a video later from Kieran, the Euro courier, who travels back and forth between the UK and Europe all the time. And he's recorded hundreds of hours of video explaining, look, what the situation is like when you cross from one European country to the other. Border, you know, also checks between, for example, Belarus and Poland, I think it was. And then, of course, the checks taking place at Dover. So I honestly don't know when they're actually going to get rid of him, because I would have demanded that he be removed immediately if I was a member of the Conservative Party. Mr. Peter, thanks so much for that super chat. Would it be would possibly end up as a bridge between the Republics of Ireland and Scotland, even if built? Yes. So they could eventually have the Boris Bridge, and then it'd be a connection between the Republic of Ireland and the Republic of Scotland. It'd be before the republics took place. It'd be probably inaugurated by the Queen herself, but it would be quite funny. Thanks so much for that super chat, Mr. Peter. We have the Freckle Punny. Thanks so much for that as well. And the real twist is that it was a rope bridge. Oh, I'd love to know were there designs for the bridge? And there's nothing here. I don't see nothing in this report, but I don't know if there were any designs for the bridge. Oh, Adrian, thanks so much for that super chat. The thing I'm looking for this show is Scott's making a request of no confidence after report, and Tories vote to keep Boris. This is a never-ending show. I think somebody's going to call for a vote of no confidence, or a confidence vote in Johnson. Will it pass? It's difficult to see, because there is a certain number of... See, the problem is there's still a huge amount of support for Johnson in the Conservative Party. So there are a lot of supporters, you know, members of the Conservative Party who still believe in Johnson. The public don't. And this is where I think the party is out of step with the public. And the party want to keep him on for some reason. Of course, the public don't. And the party don't really care about the public at this stage, because there isn't a general election on the horizon. Not for a while yet, anyway. So they're probably thinking he can weather this storm. Or they're thinking, we don't want to replace him now, because there's a lot of, as I said, a lot of crap coming down the road, and they'd like to saddle him with it, and then send him on his way. But it's best to wait for that to happen first. But while there are council elections or things like that, the Conservatives are hemorrhaging seats. Thanks for that super chat. But yeah, it could be a case of one of the opposition parties, the SNP, calling a vote of no confidence in Johnson, and then the Tories voting to keep him. Now, it is, it's a political fact that Johnson is an asset for the SNP. The longer he stays there, the more people are flocking to the SNP and supporting independence as well for Scotland. It's also helping the Labour Party to a certain extent. It's more and more of the public are looking at Johnson's alternative, Keir Starmer, as a possible Prime Minister. And, people are tired of Boris Johnson. These parties have really rubbed people the wrong way. And there's no real comeback from that. I think the problem is the party either don't see it or don't want to see it. Peter, thanks so much for that super chat. Boris is like a Mexican piñata. They want everyone to keep hitting him. he is a bit like that. Yeah, everyone wants to keep hitting him. And even within the party, like these factions within the party, I was quite surprised to see David Davis stand up and tell Boris Johnson to go. But then David Davis is a backbencher at this stage. He's not someone really serious anymore in the party. I think he's respected in the party, but he's not a serious individual. I don't think he's a serious individual in general, but he's not considered important. And he doesn't have the clout that he used to have. So I think if somebody, and I said this before, I also said it in some of the videos, that you need to wait for a cabinet minister to say Boris Johnson needs to go, and then it's over. Because once he loses support of the cabinet, then he can't function as a prime minister. So as if Rishi Sunak said he has to go, then it's over, because then the rest of the cabinet would go along with that minister. It'd be unusual for one cabinet minister to say the prime minister needs to go, and that cabinet minister stay in their position, or the rest of the cabinet disagree with them. Because the cabinet ministers don't operate on their own in a vacuum. They would speak to the leaders of the 1922 committee, or they would speak with senior members of the party and say, look, I can't work with this guy anymore. He needs to go. And they would get the nod. That minister would get the nod from the senior members of the party, and then they would distance themselves or call for Johnson to resign. So that person probably wouldn't become prime minister, or it could damage their career. So they're afraid to do that as well. It's all a horrible game that they're all playing, and unfortunately the country is suffering because of it. Thanks so much, Peter. We also have a super chat from Number Free. Thanks so much, Number Free. Great to have you on as well. The Tory party needs Boris Johnson to survive for a while longer. I think as I said, he's still popular within the party. The supporters like Johnson, and they don't want to see him go. And I think there's a bit of a split, maybe, or a bit of a battle taking place within the party. And I think these allegations about blackmailing MPs is not going down well in the party. And there's a schism, I think, appearing between the party, the Conservative Parliamentary Party, and Number 10. Because the Number 10 are telling, with the whips, are telling these MPs, you have to support Boris Johnson, you have to support the government, you have to do this, you have to agree with this, you have to agree with that. And, I imagine some of them, not all of them, but some of them perhaps are saying, look, I can't support this. My constituents would have me, hung, drawn and quartered. And they say, well, if you don't, then you're not going to get money. Or we're going to get on to, as we've seen, the Daily Mail, or we'll get on to the Telegraph, or even the Express, and they're going to run a very bad story about you, something you did in the past, or we're going to get somebody to go through your Twitter feed and pull something out and, make you look bad, embarrass you, or you vote as we decide. And it's not going down well in the party. And I think a lot of MPs it's not so much that they disagree with the policies. A lot of them don't care about, poor people, or if we look at the voting records, if you look at the voting records, a lot of these votes are from even 10 years ago. So it's not something when Boris Johnson was in charge. A lot of these people don't care about the poor, obviously. They're Tories. Generally, you don't join the Conservative Party if you care about the working class. So, but they don't like to be told what to do by the whips, or they don't like to be told what to do, especially by Number 10. Van Man Talks, great to see you on the stream. Johnson wants a bridge that will mean he'll end up with a rope swing. Oh my god. Okay, I just want to go on with this. So it says the report described how Balfour's Dyke, an underwater trench on the most direct route between Scotland and Northern Ireland, would need to be carefully surveyed due to 1 million tons of unexploded munitions that were dumped there between the First World War and the 1970s. It's a wonderful place, no? Johnson previously talked up the creation of a fixed link, but accepted the conclusion of the report. The research was carried out alongside a wider review of connectivity in the UK, which cost 1.1 million. The DFT, Department for Transport, said the total of 1.9 or 2 million for both studies was the amount spent on consultancy fees and department staff costs. Yes. Louise Hay, Labour's shadow transport secretary, said there is a cost of living crisis, and the Prime Minister blew nearly £1 million on an utterly infeasible vanity project, enough to fill 18,000 potholes. This just shows the Tories' sheer disrespect for public money. Willie Rennie, the economy spokesperson for the Scottish Liberal Democrats, said, "This is gobsmacking sum has been spent on a PR stunt. It shows like something that the Prime Minister came up with at 2 a.m. at a Downing Street party." Yes, it probably was. It was like Boris Johnson was drunk and he was like, yeah, Dominic, come over here. What do you think of this? A bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland. Even Dominic probably went, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Oh my God. So at the end, I think this money should be paid by the Conservative Party or Boris Johnson. He can reach out to one of his donors and they can help pay for it. So it seems they're sticking with parties and where Boris Johnson comes up with these ideas. It seems there are new details. Let me just check you can see this, guys. Oh, let me go up a little bit. Okay. So this is from a few hours ago in the Guardian. It says, new details of Downing Street parties emerge. The Telegraph has just published some more details from the parties involved. About 30 people took place involving about 30 people took place in the basement of Downing Street the night before Prince Philip's funeral. These come from witness reports and are confirmed through text messages and photos. So here are the key details. Downing Street staff partied from around 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. in a 7-hour drinking session. Text messages show by the Telegraph indicate. People were served wine and spirits with mixers in plastic disposable cups, with alcohol at one point getting spilled on an office printer. Okay. The people at the parties played loud music on a laptop and ordered 4 large takeaway pizzas. Were there strippers? Wait a moment. The photographs show that the Telegraph staff, the photos shown by the Telegraph staff, shown number 10 staff, some with drinks, gathered in the Downing Street basement, backed up accounts published earlier this month. The existence of photographs could become a point of focus for Sue Gray's investigation. Sue Gray again, remember Sue Gray. The Telegraph opted not to publish these for source protection. So maybe somebody important or somebody who could be identified in these photos shared them with the Telegraph. What's interesting is the Telegraph is pro-Tory. I imagine that the Telegraph is publishing these now because they don't want another newspaper to publish them. Because, they've probably sat on these photos for a long time to protect Johnson. And they realize that they can't hold on to them forever. And they're probably publishing them now. Some attendees are alleged to have gone down a child's slide belonging to Wilf Johnson, Boris Johnson's son. It has particularly been reported that Wilf's swing was broken that night. So there are vandals as well. These are the people running the country. A former, and it, it's a perfect analogy, breaking stuff. That's the Conservative Party, or that's the number 10 staff. These are people selected by Boris Johnson generally, or Dominic Cummings, although perhaps Dominic Cummings' guys are out. A former advisor who spoke to the paper said the basement was an unusual choice of venue given number 10's range of functional suites, and was likely selected to hide the party. Yeah, because, if there were other staff going around, you'd probably see it. If there were journalists or guests coming to number 10 at the time, they would see it, and they would see all this commotion. But if it was in the basement, they wouldn't be able to hear it or see it. So it was, of course, the basement was chosen in order to hide the party. So we'll see what photos come out anyway. The swing was probably an insurance job by Boris Johnson. Grey washing the investigation. Yeah, look, what is going to come out? I have a feeling Sue Gray is going to come out and say something like, yes, Boris Johnson did not respect the rules to the letter of the law. He acted in bad judgment, but I can't make a decision on his future. And Boris Johnson will claim vindication. He'll say that he has been vindicated by this report. He will maybe apologize again, saying, I'm sorry I acted in bad judgment, but he didn't break any rules. So I think this Sue Gray report is going to is not going to provide us with anything that we don't know already. And what's interesting about how Boris Johnson has always, suggested we have to wait for Sue Gray's report. You hear Tory MPs and government ministers saying how Sue Gray is an independent arbiter. She's a highly qualified civil servant, a respectful individual. This leads to me to the idea that this suggests to me the idea that they want to present her as this godlike figure who cannot make mistakes. And if this person has already, look, I'm pretty sure that Boris Johnson and Sue Gray are in contact. And of course, she's reporting to who? To Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is going to sign off on this report. So he'll decide what goes into it. So she could say some pretty bad stuff, but Boris Johnson will decide what is actually published. And I don't see her... I don't think she has the scope to suggest that Boris Johnson resign or Boris Johnson be punished. So I don't see this report really doing any damage to Johnson at all. It was Will's swing. Sue Gray doesn't exist. Much more exciting secret party invitation. He's been a naughty boy and don't do it again. Yes, pretty much. Sue Gray blocked freedom of information on Graham Fire and on the Blood Tribunal. Please everyone, what Johnson is doing is not normal politics. He is committing criminal offences. Yes, he is. She's on the payroll. She's going to do the least that's necessary. If Boris Johnson broke the law, then he should be judged by a judge, by a magistrate or a judge. Like everyone else. If other people didn't say you have to wait for Sue Gray's report. No, if you were hosting a party and the police came round and they issued you a fine, you weren't able to say you'll have to wait for Sue Gray's report to see if I was actually hosting a party or not. And if you had a problem, you went to the magistrate. Why is Boris Johnson not being dragged in front of a magistrate? I thought it was, we're all equal under the law. Why isn't Boris Johnson in prison? That's a very good question. Buxton, I see you on the stream. Great to have you on. Hope you're well tonight. So I want to move on to the next story, from one disgusting individual to another, and which includes the DUP, would you imagine? So this is a very interesting story. So Prince Andrew, you know Prince Andrew, the man who cannot sweat, allegedly, bid to block Union flag flying on birthday. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on this. So what this story is about is a number of parties, the SDLP, Sinn Féin, and the Alliance Party. I don't know about the UUP, but let's park them for a moment. So the Alliance Party, the SDLP, and Sinn Féin have put in a motion in the Northern Ireland Assembly to not fly the Union flag on Prince Andrew's birthday. Now you probably wonder why is that? If you have to ask why, then you're in serious trouble, okay? But there is somebody against this, the DUP. So it says here, 3 political parties have called for the Union flag not to be flown on Belfast City Hall to mark Prince Andrew's birthday this year. It is due to be flown on the 19th of February, but the SDLP, Alliance Party and Sinn Féin say that it should not happen due to the allegations against Prince Andrew. His birthday is part of a list of designated days when the government advises... I'm laughing because this is just so ridiculous. When the government advises the Union flag to be flown at council buildings. The DUP voted against the move. Of course, it's the DUP. They like always to be on the wrong side of everything. So the DUP, of course, on the wrong side of Brexit. The DUP on the wrong side of... what was it recently? You just choose any politics and the DUP are on the wrong side. The DUP were campaigning for Donald Trump to be re-elected. Okay. Like, what impact the DUP would have in the United States, I don't know, but they were campaigning for for Donald Trump to be re-elected. The DUP are always on the wrong side. Whatever side if you choose anything from history, the DUP would be on the wrong side. Ending slavery, no, they would be on the wrong side. Women's voting, allowing women to vote, the DUP would be on the wrong side. Everything, you know. So the DUP voted against the move. It said the council should abide by the existing designated days policy. Why? Why? This is just ridiculous. Why should... Flying the flag is honouring this guy. Why should this guy be honoured? And look, I know I'm speaking from a very biased position. I'm no fan of the monarchy, okay? But surely have a bit of decency. A little bit of decency. This month, the Duke of York's military titles and royal patronages were returned to the Queen. Like the Queen said, give me back those medals, okay? You know, even if the Queen said, look, you better give back those medals, it's a bit embarrassing. No, the DUP said, no, we're going to stick by our man. It comes as he faces US civil action over sexual assault allegations claimed he has consistently denied. Belfast City Hall has flown the Union flag on designated days since a vote in December 2012 to end its permanent display. So what happened was there used to be a permanent flag. Flags are very important in Northern Ireland. Okay, I'm not going to get into all the details, but for the Union flag would fly over Belfast City Hall permanently. Then there was a vote in 2012 when nationalist parties became. I think there was a nationalist mayor, and there was a vote. Which, look, if people, if parties want to have a vote on something, that's fine. If there's a majority that support doing something, that's fine. If there's a majority voting against something, that's fine. As a majority to support something or remove something, I don't have a problem with that. As long as it doesn't, negatively impact people's lives. A flag, if a flag negatively impacts your life, then you have a very serious problem, okay? Flags are not your problem. The problem goes much deeper, okay? A flag is a piece of cloth. I understand there's a connection and there's deep connection with that, but, it's at the end of the day, if a flag damages you in some way, then it's probably best that you seek some help. But the DUP are, don't care about that either. Anyway, it says here, guidance on designated days for flying the Union flag from government buildings is determined by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, which is headed currently by Brexiteer Nadine Dorries, yes. SDLP councillor Donal Lyons said flying the flag at Belfast City Hall to mark his birthday would be a retrograde step. He had thought the proposal to the council he had brought the proposal to the council strategic policy and resources committee on Friday, but it will need to be ratified by the full council next month. Mr. Lyons said, I would ask every councillor to back my proposal. I want to get to the point where the DUP respond to this. DUP councillor Brian Kingston insisted his party was not supporting the proposal. The position of DUP councillors is that we should abide by our policy of implementing the Flag Day designations by DCMS. Does the Northern Ireland Assembly not have remit here? Are they not allowed to vote on these things? We are certainly not bound. We are certainly not blind to the allegations. Sorry, what am I reading? We're certainly not blind to the allegations of gross misconduct by Prince Andrew, and we share in the deep concern, yeah, you do, about these. But we should await the outcome of the trial. But just think about the optics here. Okay, the man or woman on the street knows what Prince Andrew is, and you're saying, no, we need to keep that flag up there to honor him, because maybe he's not what people say. whether it turns out that he's whether he's found innocent or found not guilty or not, it's the optics here. What sort of message does this send to the public? These are the sort of people that would have, I don't know, waved a flag for, what's his name? Jim will fix it. I forget. Jimmy. Oh, damn it, I forget his name. That guy, Jim will fix it. Jimmy Savile, yeah. These are the type of people who would have waved a flag for Jimmy Savile. And then after there was, oh, well, yeah, but think of the good things he did. That would be them. That would be the DUP. We're also aware that the SDLP and Sinn Féin have a form on the flying of the Union flag over our City Hall, that they voted to remove it completely every day of the year in 2012. So we're not blind to that either. So the response from the DUP is, yeah, but the SDLP and Sinn Féin want to get rid of the flag altogether, and we're resisting that as well. Alliance Party councillor, the Alliance Party is a more neutral party in Northern Ireland. Nuala McAllister said her party had written a letter to the DCMS, the department in Westminster, to ask them that they remove Prince Andrew's birthday from the list of designated days. She hasn't received a response yet. She added, we need to make sure that everything the people and the public representatives do in particular is to support victims in coming forward by saying that that just because of who the person is doesn't mean that they will be protected at all costs. Once again, the DUP on the wrong side. Okay, the DUP are on the side of Prince Andrew. Of course they are, because Sinn Féin are on the other side. That's the thing about the DUP. They don't shag the flag enough. Fake flags It's food and fuel that count, exactly. Loyalists are funny. The further away from London they are, the more expendable they are. Yeah, and you know, these are the DUP, remember, the people who voted and campaigned and support and continue to support Brexit. Even though Boris Johnson decided, I'm going to throw them under a bus. The DUP would prefer Boris Johnson to any Irish person. If an Irish person said, look, I'm going to provide you with everything you want, you can keep your flags, we can try and have we can even maintain the union, they would say, no, we want Boris Johnson instead. Why? Because he's British. Although he's not British, he's American, but he's more British than any Irish person would be. Anyway, so guys, we're almost near the middle of the stream. I'll just take a little break, a little comedy moment, and then we'll come back with some more serious stuff in just a jiffy. Enjoy.
And I want to ask you about the latest allegations on Christmas parties. Did you attend the Downing Street party that was organised by Martin Reynolds on the 20th of May?
Well, all that, as you know, is subject to an investigation with Sue Gray. So until that report is completed, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know whether I attended the party. It's that age-old question, if a tree falls in a forest but no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, if there was a party in lockdown when we told everyone they couldn't even attend funerals, but no one knew about it, was there a party? And Sue Gray is tasked with answering this philosophical question. It's very hard because hypothetically, I could think, back in May 2020, I was there with my rosé that I'd got on the way. It's direct route, great, and a sausage roll, looking at 40, 50 people, thinking, is this wrong? Well, I'm not going to know that until people find out about it, and I'm being made to explain myself hypothetically.
So have you already been interviewed by Sue Gray, and if not, do you object to her questioning you again about this?
Yeah, well, until the investigation with Sue Gray is completed, I won't know whether I've been interviewed by Sue Gray. So.
Okay. I think I may have shown that video before. Anyway, let's continue. Let's go to Brexit. It says here, Brexit UK-Australia trade deal as one-sided as the Ashes. Tory MP tells ministers. Oh my goodness, Boris Johnson, what have you done? So the post-Brexit trade deal Boris Johnson's government struck with Australia is as one-sided as the Ashes cricket series, a Conservative MP told ministers. Yes, the Australians are good at cricket. Let me just put it that way. Tory MP Neil Hudson said that he was worried about the free trade agreement could see British farmers undercut and undermined by cheap Australian meat imports. Free trade agreements should be fair for both partners, he said the Commons. The Australian free trade agreement, dare I say it, like the Ashes cricket series, is a bit one-sided in favour of Australia. Mr. Hudson said ministers still had to assure UK farmers that safeguard mechanisms in December's deal would have enough teeth to turn down the supply of meat from Australia in the years ahead. International Trade Secretary Anne-Marie Trevelyan responded by claiming that the safeguards would protect British farmers and make sure fantastic British produce doesn't suffer from unfair competition. It comes as the government announced that the US has agreed to begin talks to remove the tariffs on British steel and aluminium imposed under Donald Trump's administration. Talks had begun. Well, for the European Union, it's already happened. So if the UK was part of the European Union, then the steel tariffs would have been removed. Ms. Trevelyan told the Commons she has spoken with US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo on Wednesday, saying the UK was pushing Joe Biden's administration. Pushing Joe Biden's administration. Like, who? Trevelyan? I don't know who Trevelyan is. Miss Trevelyan's on the phone. No, I didn't order bagels. No, she's the International Trade Secretary from the UK. The UK? I thought they broke up. Anyway, removed these unnecessary and burdensome tariffs and was confident of an agreement. The 25% tariff on steel and 10% tariff on aluminium was imposed by the Trump administration during a dispute with the EU in 2018. Labour MP Stephen Kinnock pointed out that Ms Trevelyan that the EU had managed to get the Biden administration to drop tariffs in October, suggesting the US had been punishing Britain over the threat to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol. Notice how Liz Truss has changed her tune. Liz Truss, well, not so much Liz Truss, the Brexit minister has changed their tune, because Lord Frost was more gung-ho. And actually, I wanted to say something. I wanted to say something before I started the stream. Was Lord Frost, David Frost, is doing a lot of interviews at the moment. Not a lot, but he did one with the Telegraph, which I covered, and he's recently done one with yesterday or today. I don't remember which it was. With GB News, Gammon Brexit News. I'm going to say this. I would give a kidney. I would donate a kidney. But don't hold me to that. I would donate a kidney for Lord Frost to be interviewed by James O'Brien. I would give anything for that. It would be wonderful. It would be the greatest thing since Jacob Rees-Mogg was interviewed by James O'Brien. Lord Frost doesn't give interviews to people who ask him questions. He does conversations with friends. That's what he does. And I would love to see Lord Frost, David Frost, interviewed by James O'Brien. That would be just sweet. Isn't it interesting that he's doing interviews now that he has resigned? I honestly think, and this, I'm going out on a bit of a limb here, but I think he's trying to create some sort of power base. A bit like, Brexit Heartman Steve Baker, or that other theatrical loon, what's his name? Desmond Swain. More like Steve Baker. Steve Baker has created a power base within the Conservative Party, and he's either welcomed Lord Frost aboard, or Lord Frost is trying to do something similar. Now, it's difficult for Lord Frost because he's not an MP; he's a member of the House of Lords. But I think he wants some sort of power, and I think he's putting himself out there because he'd like to become a minister again. He probably liked it. And he's hoping that Johnson will be kicked out, and he'll be invited into the next administration. I'm going out on a bit of a limb here, but I do think that you may see. We haven't seen the last of Lord Frost. We'll see him around again. I think he'll be in the next administration. Drake, thanks so much for that super chat. Doctors and witches have a simple rule: do no harm. If it harms none, do as you will. Wicca, compared to non-Christian, con-Christs, compared to con-Christs, say sorry and be forgiven. Yes, the old idea, do as you wish and then apologize. And that's the Conservatives' modus operandi. Thanks so much for that super chat. It's a very valid point you made there. We need more people who do not want to do harm. That's the problem, and a lot more of those, of course, in politics. So the Australian trade deal is not good for British farmers. It's not good for the British public. And we're starting to see some Conservatives point it out, because they have to answer to their constituents. And if you're representing a farming community and they're starting to feel the pain, they're going to respond. They're going to reach out to you. They're going to speak to you. They'll demand answers from you, and you have to provide answers, or you'll be kicked out. And I really hope that farmers who consistently voted for the Conservative Party are going to switch at the next election. I'm not expecting them to vote for the Green Party or the Labour Party, but some of them might flip to the Liberal Democrats. And move away from the Tories. But, you know, tradition, I think, forces many of them to vote Tory, unfortunately. So, sticking with Brexit, I want to read this other story from the Irish Times. It says here, Brexit ends land bridge route as Dublin port records sharp fall in lorry freight. So Brexit has spelled the end of the British land bridge transit route, Dublin Port's chief executive Eamon O'Reilly has said, as new figures show a dramatic fall in lorry traffic with British ports. So as we know, checks have come in on the 1st of January for goods moving from the EU into the UK. But also since 2020, from the 1st of January this year, but from last year as well, we've seen problems moving goods between Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland. And what's happened is Northern Ireland has become a route into Ireland, because it's no longer feasible to move goods from the Republic of Ireland to Europe via the land bridge, the so-called land bridge, and backwards back from the UK into Great Britain into Ireland. The new border controls introduced at the start of last year following Britain's departure from the European Union have led to a sharp decline in the road freight traffic between Dublin Port as businesses turn to direct ferry routes with mainland Europe to avoid post-Brexit red tape. Full year figures on freight volumes through Dublin Port Company in 2021 reveal the impact of Brexit on the once favoured land bridge route across Britain to and from the mainland Europe. The state's busiest port recorded a 9% drop in the number of roll-on roll-off units, equivalent to 99,000 trailers last year, while the number of lift-on lift-off units increased by 10.2%, or 43,000 containers, as more traders sought to ship goods directly with Europe. The bulk of the decline in lorry traffic was due to the 90,000 reduction in the number of driver-accompanied trailers passing through Dublin Port during the year, as more traders chose to ship goods in and out of the state by container rather than lorry-accompanied trailers. So what's happening is, instead of sending lorries with drivers, they're just sending the containers directly. The decline in driver-accompanied trailers was primarily on the routes between Dublin and Holyhead, Liverpool and Hemshan, with volumes falling by 187,000 or 21% to 703,000. The land bridge has gone. It hasn't re-emerged. I thought it would, but it hasn't. And there's nothing to suggest that it's going to re-emerge in my mind, because the British have yet to introduce import controls. I don't see the land bridge recovering, said Mr. O'Reilly. Gareth MacDonald, thanks so much for that super chat. Let me just read your super chat. Sorry I'm late, Max. Don't worry. I don't apologize. I was busy waiting for Sue. Sue, 50 grades of 50 shades of grey. Sue, to tell me whether or not those heavy goods vehicle queues at Dover are related to Brexit. So did she tell you in the end if they're related to Brexit or not? Thanks for that super chat, Gareth. Oh my god, yes. We'll get to that in a moment as well. What a disaster. And remember, Brexiteers said everything would be wonderful. The figures marked a change in the fiscal structure of the market and a reset in the distribution of trade between Ireland and Britain and between Ireland and mainland Europe, with ports in Rosslare and Belfast seeing an increase in volume in freight volumes, he said. Overall freight volumes passed through Dublin Port fell by 5%, as the freight unit volumes with Britain declined by 214,000, while volumes with mainland Europe rose by 158,000. So you're going to see a balance at one stage, and then the balance will go the other way. So you're eventually going to see more and more of a percentage of freight going directly to Europe from the Republic of Ireland. And whatever trade there is between Ireland and Great Britain will be via Northern Ireland. He goes on to say, just under this, Mr. O'Reilly said that Dublin Port had lost Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland haul air traffic to Northern Ireland ports driven by looser border controls than they face in Dublin. Because what's happening in Northern Ireland is they're not the same level of checks. Why? Because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So the Northern Ireland Protocol allows for fewer checks between Great Britain and the island of Ireland than the checks that are taking place between Great Britain and the Republic of Ireland. So Northern Ireland once again benefits as a consequence of Brexit, ironically. Dublin Port is losing out. Larne and Belfast are benefiting because of the Northern Ireland Protocol. I never said that the Brexit would be beneficial to, on the whole, to Ireland. The Republic of Ireland didn't want Brexit. They're suffering the consequences of Brexit. European companies didn't want, European countries didn't want Brexit either. They're suffering the consequences of Brexit. But, there are no real winners, apart from, it seems, Northern Ireland. Ironically, Northern Ireland, that was ignored from the very beginning, is benefiting the most from Brexit, but also, in a sense, benefiting because of Brexit. It's not just undoing the damage of Brexit, it's actually benefiting. You can see here where there's more freight moving between, it's been shifted northward. So as it used to travel between Dublin and Holyhead, it's now travelling between, I think, Stranraer and Larne, for example. Okay, let's move on. I want to show you, so what's happening in Dover. I want to show you this clip. So this was road into Dover on Wednesday. This horrendous queue of lorries went on for so long I got bored of filming. I feel so bad for the drivers stuck in the dim light shitlands of pro Brexit Kent. So I'll show you this clip, and then I have another one after that. I'll just turn down the music because I don't want problems. But you can see it goes on and on and on. Maybe it's finished here. We're going around the corner. No, it goes on and on and on and on. And it continues on and on and on. Here's, I think, another clip I want to show you as well. This is from Kieran, the Euro Courier. He's been invited. He called into James O'Brien's show a few times. He said, "Just remember, this is the A20, and a result of full customs checks on all commercial leaving the UK for France. 10 to 20 minutes per truck. Processing paperwork results in this. This is one part of a very long queue." So this is going into Dover for France, and this is where trucks are parked up because the drivers have to get out to make sure that their paperwork is correct, and it takes between 10 and 15 minutes. He's driving a van, so he doesn't have to queue with these larger lorries. The video is 2 minutes 20, okay? It goes on for a long time. I don't know how long this queue is, but it's very long. And it's a consequence of, this is from January 21, so today, at 12 a.m. So this was 12 a.m. this morning. It just goes on, and it's not going to get any better because more checks are coming in. I would love to take Mark Francois, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage, Brexit hardman Steve Baker, and put them down here. Put them in a lorry to queue for whatever number of hours it is. How long would they last? Guys, how long do you think Mark Francois would last in one of these lorries, in one of the cabs? How many hours do you think he'd last? How long do you think Nigel Farage would last before he'd call one of his chauffeur-driven Range Rovers to come and pick him up? They wanted this, but they're not suffering the consequences of it. I've said this before. The people who campaigned for Brexit, the ones who support it, who continue to support it, are not suffering the consequences. Somebody else is. Bully Maguire says, all those trucks, how will Boris get his cheese and wine now? Why isn't it being reported in the mainstream media? BBC don't have anything. Of course. But there were also reports today, and I showed in a clip, where some of the cameras are switched off. Now, I don't know if they're faulty because they're down for maintenance or something. But it is weird how we're seeing this level of queuing and the cameras are not working. And we're not hearing about it in the media. Now, some media is covering it. Ironically, it's European media that's covering it. And there was a report from, I think, Euronews, but the BBC is not talking about it. What is the BBC talking about at the moment, apart from Partygate? And it's going to get worse. So, guys, I want to move on away from Brexit for a moment. So who's going to replace Boris Johnson? So some of you asked me at the beginning of the stream, who do you think is going to replace Boris Johnson? It says here, Liz Truss says Boris Johnson is doing a fantastic job, but sidesteps leadership question. So there are two possible replacements for Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. I would be more inclined to put my money on Rishi Sunak. I don't think Liz Truss is ready or is the favourite at the moment. Now that could change. Depends on a number of different things. It depends on the media mainly, because if the Daily Mail or the Express or the Sun or some of these other rags, if they throw their support behind Liz Truss, then she's likely to be nominated. If they throw their support behind Rishi Sunak, then he will be likely the next Prime Minister. Isn't this horrible? Why, you hear Tories saying, oh, look at this MP who crossed the aisle and joined the Tory MP who crossed the aisle and joined the Labour Party. There should be a by-election there. It's not actually a requirement of Parliament, but wouldn't you think if Boris Johnson resigns as Prime Minister, shouldn't that trigger a general election? Why is it possible that, yes, we get rid of Boris Johnson, we just put in a new Tory leader? Wouldn't it be more interesting if there was, every time a Prime Minister resigned, there would have to be a general election, because you need a new government? But it doesn't happen like that. Anyway, it goes on to say, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has backed Boris Johnson, saying he is doing a fantastic job. I'd love to, can we have some more details as Prime Minister? That he has her 100% support and should remain in number 10 as long as possible. Just read, Garrett, thanks so much for that super chat. Put all the heavy goods vehicle drivers in a dinghy, and the people you mentioned will be like flies to shit max. Actually, yeah, maybe a few dinghies around Dover would attract the Nigel Farage brigade to do something about what's happening. They'll be down there with their cameras. Good idea, Gareth. Thanks for that super chat. Truss in Sydney for a series of ministerial talks with her Australian counterpart. was asked on Friday whether the Prime Minister's leadership remained tenable given the unfolding anger over a series of parties in Downing Street while the UK was under strict COVID lockdown. The Prime Minister has my 100% support. He's doing an excellent job, Truss said during a press conference in Sydney. I want the Prime Minister to continue as long as possible in his job. He's doing a fantastic job. Truss, seen as a potential leadership candidate should Johnson be forced out, did not answer a question about whether she would run for Prime Minister if the leadership ballot was held. There's no leadership election, she said. Asked about the rising anger across Britain over Number 10's apparent consistent defiance of COVID lockdown laws, Truss said Johnson had acknowledged the error and that the British people were focusing on the country's economic recovery. What economic recovery? And no, the people are focusing on the fact that Boris Johnson broke rules that they had to follow and that they got punished if they broke the rules, but Boris Johnson, no. Richard, thanks so much for that super chat. Notice Liz Truss changed her voice to sound like Thatcher than the B&Q grader that she used to be. I wonder why. Yeah, I actually noticed that as well. I was thinking, I was trying to be generous to her and say, well, maybe she changed because of, the people she interacts with. And then I think about myself, because my accent has changed over the last number of years, because I've been living in another country, and I try to speak as clearly as possible, because when I'm speaking to Italians, I have to try and speak as clearly as possible so that they understand. But I do think her accent has changed somewhat, yes. I think she's trying to sound a bit more like Thatcher. And you've seen, there are pictures of her with a similar hairstyle. So yes, of course she is trying to embed in people's minds the idea that she could be a possible replacement for Johnson and a future Thatcher. Definitely. She's ambitious. Why was she a Remainer? And then she jumped immediately on Boris Johnson's on the Brexit bus. Maybe not Boris Johnson's, but the Brexit bus. Why did she jump immediately on that? She was called out on it, and she, fell apart like a cheap suit. She's not a very clever person, I don't think. I don't think she's really an intelligent individual, but she's an opportunist, and she's a career politician. What does she actually believe? That's a question I'd like to ask her. What does she actually believe? What does she truly believe in? In Liz Truss. Thanks so much, Martha. In Liz Truss. But I would love to sit down with her, no cameras or anything, and just ask her, what do you actually believe in? Because you used to be a Remainer, now you're a Brexiteer. You're saying all sorts of rubbish on TV and in the media. What is her driving force? What does she actually support? What is she for? What is she against? We know very little about her. Drag, thanks so much for that super chat. Should the next list of lords proposed by the Labour Party be Ricky Gervais, Stephen Fry, Ian Hishop, Stuart Lee, Russell Howard, Sandy Tosvig? Yes. I agree with that. You mentioned Ricky Gervais in the House of Lords. I'm not a fan of the House of Lords, but if Ricky Gervais was made a Lord, that would be wonderful. I'd tune in for his speeches. And he's somebody who cares. So I don't think anyone would actually put him in the House of Lords. The House of Lords has generally become a retirement home for worn out politicians. It's quite sad. Although they do some good things. They hold Boris Johnson back a little bit from time to time. Recently, they sent back that terrible bill against protesting. So they have their uses, but generally, I think it's a bit broken. It needs to go. Replace with what? I don't know. An elected second chamber, like in the United States. Should it be unelected? I'm more inclined to have it unelected, because if it's elected, you're going to have political parties. But I think we need to replace first past the post with something better, proportional representation, for example. So I think that first past the post needs to go, where you just have whoever wins the most votes in a constituency, they win, even if it's like 25% of the vote, they win the seat. But I think something like an unelected second chamber could be useful, because it takes the politics, not the politics, but the partisanship out of a vote. And we've seen that in some situations in the House of Lords, where they have said, no, we actually have to do what's right by the people, not by what the party wants us to do. And there is a bit of independence from the parties, even though some of the members of the House of Lords are aligned with certain parties. It'd be nice to have a discussion with some people about that. So is she going to run as I think she's definitely going to throw her hat into the ring when Boris Johnson goes. She's probably hoping that there'll be some support. But she needs media support, and she needs the party behind her, or a significant number of people in the party behind her. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about the pandemic and this insane proposal by Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson tells schools in England to end mask-wearing policy. 330 people died today in the United Kingdom. And Boris Johnson wants to get rid of mask wearing. Boris Johnson, and why? Well, because for political reasons, not because he's following the science or he's following the data. No, if I do this, it will make me look popular. Then I'm going to do it. And to hell with the consequences. Once again, Boris Johnson has told schools in England to end the wearing of face masks for pupils. And you know who's celebrating? The COVIDiots are celebrating this. I've seen a few tweets online where high-profile COVIDiots are celebrating this, saying, yes, we have our freedom back, and stuff like that, because Boris Johnson has gotten rid of the mask mandate. Cahill, thanks so much for that super chat. I guess maybe from Leitrim, by your accent, it's not at all gone. So there's a little bit remain, but not Leitrim, but Longford, nearby. But I'll probably never be able to get rid of it. Thanks so much for that super chat. Well spotted. I'm not very good with accents myself, especially Irish ones. Unless it's Belfast and Cork and Dublin, unless it's one of those, I wouldn't be able to really identify the location. Johnson's demand to follow the guidance made through his number 10 spokesperson came after head teachers at secondary schools across England said that they would encourage their students to keep wearing masks despite the government's withdrawal advice from them to be worn in classrooms. And here we have the real leaders stepping up. Head teachers saying, no, sorry, Boris Johnson, we're going to encourage the students to wear them, even though you don't give a crap about them. The Prime Minister's spokesperson said, children have been one of the hardest hit as a result of the disruption throughout the pandemic, and we recognise the impact it has had on their education. The Prime Minister believes it's vital that children are receiving face-to-face education and can enjoy a normal experience in the classroom, and the Prime Minister also thinks that schools should follow the guidance. God. We've been clear that the removal of the requirement for face masks to be worn in classrooms, we will remove advice for school face masks to be worn in communal areas from the 27th of January. What's going to happen is certain parents will say, oh, well, the government said we can remove them, so there's going to be a clash probably with the teachers or with the schools. Johnson's intervention is likely to further confuse the issue. That's all he does, inject confusion into any situation, with school leaders pointing out that the official guidance from the Department for Education specifies that masks can still be required in schools. The Department for Education's advice to parents, updated on Tuesday, states Your nursery, school or college might advise you that face coverings should be temporary, be worn in communal areas or classrooms by pupils, staff and visitors unless exempt. Meanwhile, the Education Secretary Nadim Zawari told Conservative MPs that he had agreed with directors of public health to consult with him over reintroducing face masks in schools in the event of extraordinary local outbreaks, so that we can assess evidence and data to ensure that any extra measures are proportionate. The Welsh Government said it intends to retain face masks in secondary schools and colleges for another month. Mark Drakeford, the First Minister, said pupils in Wales are likely to wear masks in classrooms until at least February half term. And that's a bit much better. Look, is it comfortable? Is it good wearing a mask? No. Would the children prefer not to have to wear them? Yes. But there is still a pandemic raging. I know Boris Johnson would like people to think that it's over. He got COVID done or something, like getting Brexit done. But that's not the case. 330 people died today. The Prime Minister's comments came as it announced there were 95,787 new cases of COVID-19 reported in the UK on Friday, down from 107,364 the day before. A further 288 people have died within 28 days of testing positive. So on today it was 288. So the number is coming down, but it's not zero, and I'm not expecting it to be at zero where people would say, okay, try to get back to normal. But it's still very high. But teachers who spoke to The Guardian said that they were not seeing a drop in cases among students despite the improving picture nationally. Shuttleworth College in Burnley were among the schools that told parents that they would be retaining masks owing to higher numbers of COVID infections. Jonathan Hopkins, the head of Barton College Court Grammar School in Canterbury, told parents that pupils should continue wearing face masks for another week in order to protect staff from infections in every year group of pupils. Once again, Boris Johnson doing stuff to help Boris Johnson, and to hell with the consequences. Let me read some of your comments. Drakeford really slated Boris today. Yes, he's not pulling any punches, and he shouldn't. Boris Johnson is a buffoon. Boris Johnson is on his way out. He doesn't deserve any respect. I think it's wise to wear a mask, rules or not. Yes, I agree. COVID couldn't get Boris done. I've seen Animal Farm, and my conclusion was the fascination needs only an S and a T to become a fascist nation. Number 3, thanks so much for that super chat. I hope the schools are teaching about the nature of government now. I really do hope so. I really think, civic studies should be brought back if it's not been taught at all. Teach people about society. Teach people about how the political system works. Teach people about how governments operate. That it's not just you go and vote once every 4 or 5 years and then you sit back and ignore what happens. That people are engaged. That people understand why politicians make certain decisions that are somewhat counterintuitive or against normal logic or normal humanity, like voting against free school meals. Why did my MP vote against free school meals? Oh, because we're going to bring in something different. No, but you didn't. I wonder if Priti Patel is in situ to bring her experience of Aldi Amen's governance. Maybe. Alexandra, the asset, is just too toxic for COVID. School children in West London are wearing masks. That's good. Thanks for that super chat number 3. Take over like Uganda. Tech people how to use critical thinking. Teach people to use critical thinking and teach them how to source information properly. Yes, and how many people have you spoken to? Yeah, I got into a bit of an argument with a Covidiot where they were saying that the Italian government is breaking breaking European law by having a green pass. So the green pass is, a COVID certificate pass. So if you want to go into a restaurant or whatever, they have to scan this code or this barcode type QR code, on your phone. And there was I got into an argument with somebody about this. And they were saying it's in breach of the European Parliament or the European Union or European Commission, I don't remember. And they said that the European Union have ruled against Italy. And I asked them for evidence of this. Can you show me on the European Commission's website where they have stated this? Because the European Commission issue all of their information in press releases. And they said, wait and I'll get back to you. So I waited. I contacted them again. Do you have any more information? Oh, yes, here it is. And they sent me a YouTube video of an Italian guy with hundreds of thousands of views on his video where he was ranting and raving about the European Union imposing sanctions against Italy. And that was it. And I said, no, this is not evidence. This is a guy on YouTube. I know a little bit about crazy people on YouTube. This is not evidence, okay? Show me the European Union's publication. And then this person said, you don't want to know the truth, do you? And I had to end it there because you can't reason with some people. No shirt, no sandies, no service simples. The COVID passes are just really bad idea. They're just divisive. I don't know, like most people have them here. It's not really a problem. If you want to go into a restaurant, if you want to go into a public office, if you want to go into a private office, you have to show it. It shows that you have been vaccinated. If you don't have it, then you're not allowed in. Unless you have someone exempt, you can have an exemption, but the exemption has to be medical. It can't be because I don't believe in it or because I don't like vaccines. It's not a valid exemption. In the same ways, I can't have an exemption for not wearing a seatbelt. If I'm suffering from some condition, maybe I can get a certificate from from the health department to say that I don't have to wear a seatbelt. I don't think that exists, but maybe there are some exemptions like this, but generally you have to wear a seatbelt. We live in a society where we have to follow certain rules. If we don't, there are consequences. If you don't want to go into the public office, then, if you don't want to have the vaccine, then you don't go into the public office. If you don't want, you have to find some other alternative. If you don't, if they require you to have the pass to go into a restaurant and you don't have the pass, then you don't go into the restaurant. There are people here in Italy who were paying €400, about £300, to get a fake injection, fake vaccine, because they wanted to get the pass but not get the jab. And a nurse was arrested here in Italy who was charging people €400, £300, and she was giving them nothing. And if you wanted to get the real one, it was free. Just didn't make any sense to me. Sure, the COVID pass soon comes with the social score system. I don't. How would it? That's a massive jump. But, I don't understand how people say, but they're tracking you or it's controlling you or something. But obviously, if you have a smartphone, you're logged into Google. Google can follow you everywhere. If you talk about, and it's happened to me, I don't know if this is real or not, but I was talking to Mrs. Max about dates, okay, like the fruit. And I picked up my phone after I went onto Facebook and there was an advertisement for dates. I'm more concerned about that than any green pass, honestly. It's like, am I buying these dates because I want the dates, or am I buying these dates because I've been primed by Facebook or Google or something to buy these dates? I'm more concerned with, because I'll end up buying stuff that I'll be like, why did I ever buy these things? What was wrong with me? Okay, let's move on. Get off on a bit of on a tangent there. Now I want to talk about something very important here, related to health, of course, and then I want to show you a video which blew my mind, but maybe on closer inspection, maybe not. But I'll get to that in a moment. Just want to read this first. Ministers and NHS bosses clash over surgery waiting list targets in England. So a very tense behind-the-scenes row over how quickly hospitals in England can be expected to reduce the massive backlog of surgery has broken out between NHS bosses and government ministers. The dispute has delayed publication of the government's elective recovery plan, which Downing Street has indicated would be part of Boris Johnson's Operation Red Meat political fight back this week. So this is part of Boris Johnson's throw red meat to the base in order to convince them that I'm a good guy and that they should stop talking about parties. Johnson's plan for salvaging his premiership after revelations of lockdown party busting parties at Downing Street has been announced. Has been to announce a slew of populist policies, including freezing the BBC licence fee for 2 years. Number 10, the Treasury and Department of Health and Social Care are pressing NHS England to ensure that hospitals do as many operations as they can as quickly as possible in order to tackle the backlog, which now stands at a record 6 million patients. I'm trying to hold back my language. No, I can't. Fuck them, okay? Fuck Boris Johnson, the Department of Health and Social Care, and the Treasury. They're bastards, because because these are people. So the NHS have been on their knees after years of cuts by successive Tory governments. Since 2010, they've been cutting the NHS, grinding it down, and then during the pandemic, thrown under a bus, members of NHS staff having to rely on bloody plastic bags as PPE because the friend down the pub won the contract and bought crappy, shitty PPE from China on Wish.com or something, instead of actually buying it from a UK supplier because he had to make a cut. He had to make a quick quid on the side. NHS staff lost their lives because of this shit. And then we have the likes of Boris Johnson, who doesn't care a crap about the NHS that saved his life, turning around and saying, you need to work harder because I'm starting to look bad because the racists who've been supporting me all along have decided maybe we'll move on to someone else. Jesus Christ. Like, really? This sort of thing really pisses me off because there are people who put their lives on the line every day. There are staff who are burnt out, and now they're being put under pressure once again by frigging politicians who understand nothing about the stress and strain of working in the NHS. I don't understand. I'm just viewing it. I don't get up at 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning, take a bus, or drive there and have to pay for fucking parking, which has that been removed? It was removed during the pandemic. Then they brought it back in again, I think. In Scotland, they don't have it. But in England, there is frigging paid parking for NHS staff. How is that sane? How is that humane? You have people driving there in the cold, dark morning to work in a shift where they're risking their life. They're having to deal with members of the public who are friggin' idiots who won't get vaccinated because they read some fucking shit on Facebook. Then they have to return home after a long day. And what do they read in their newspaper? They read that Boris Johnson is afraid of losing his fucking job, so he wants somebody else to take the hit. Sorry for my language, guys, but really, this really pisses me off. Boris Johnson should have been out long time ago. And there are staff who are struggling. And you have this fucking idiot coming around and saying, you need to work harder because this is making me look bad. It's like the boss who does nothing all year. His staff does all the work. And then as his boss comes along and says, hey, what's happening here? We haven't sold enough. He turns around and he tells his staff, you need to work harder. And then goes on fucking holiday. I don't rely on the NHS. Okay? Let me be honest here. I don't rely on the NHS. But have some humanity. These people are not doing it for money. They're not doing it because it's an easy job. They're doing it out of passion. They're doing it because they want to help society. They want to help people. And they're being trampled on by these fucking charlatans. Derek, thanks so much for that super chat. Following last week, Lux Tax just refunded me €8,000 for buying an electric car. Have some of the benefit for you for the good. Thanks so much, Derek. It wasn't necessary to do that. Very kind of you. I didn't actually plan to go off on a rant like this, but this really does piss me. Unfortunately, it's a trigger for me because I see people. Thanks once again, Derek. Very kind of you. And best of luck with the car. It triggers me because these are people. I don't know if you guys have heard me before, but I said that my sister works as a paramedic in Ireland, and she's told me stories about, and I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but I feel these are the people who are on the front line. These are the soldiers who went out to fight this battle. And instead of being treated as heroes, being respected, they're being thrown under a bus by the generals who are sitting 50 miles behind the lines in their cushy offices, smoking cigars, making money on the side. And then they're turning around and saying, okay, yes, we've sent you out without a rifle, but we're going to have to send you out again. Can you give me a rifle this time? No, there isn't any money for rifles because we spent it all on ivory back scratchers or on new cars or something for the generals. Or we'll give you a rifle we got from this guy who claims to make rifles. We don't know if it'll work or not, but do your best. Thanks, Reagan Elite. I feel your pain, Max. Thanks for sharing it. It matters. Guys, there's no need to send super chats, but I just thanks very much anyway. Thanks for the support. But it just really pisses me off because you have these charlatans in number 10 in the Conservative Party who don't give a look. There are, and I'm not a huge fan of politicians. Okay. Thanks, Night Raven. Thank you. That rant was worth it. Thanks so much. Look, I have a special place in my heart for people who do jobs that I wouldn't be able to do. I'm being honest. I would not be able to do that job. I wouldn't have the stamina. I wouldn't have the stomach because in some case you have to deal with some pretty horrible stuff. And it's not the best paid job in the world. It's not the most comfortable job. It's requires long hours, dealing with very difficult people. It's not just with COVID, but also we've heard so many stories about frontline staff being attacked by drunk idiots or whatever, or people who are aggressive in general. And they're there to help you, to help people who are sick. I hope I never have to rely on them. But how can we turn around and treat them like this? And how can the government turn around and treat them like this? Like, there's here in the region where I am in Italy, the leader, the president of the region, they call it the governor of the region. He's from a far right party, the League Party. I completely disagree with that party. But he has treated the staff with respect. And I respect him for doing that. But I shouldn't even have to do that. It should be the bare minimum. It should be the default that you treat the NHS staff with respect. How is this treating them with respect? By saying, yes, you're exhausted, you're destroyed. Go on out there again. Not this time to save lives, but to save Boris Johnson's career. Okay. Now, maybe I shouldn't go on to this video because I'm a bit angry and this might make me even worse. But I want to show you this.
75.
This is Joe. They did a video and thanks guys for the super chats, but don't worry, it's like you don't have to do this. But I want to show you this clip from Joe. They did a video some years ago where they interviewed people in the UK about American healthcare. Now, why is this important? It's because the Tories want to copy and paste American healthcare in the UK. Nigel Farage, for example, is a big supporter of American-style healthcare. Brexit hardman Steve Baker. Daniel Hannan. A lot of Tories, either in the House of Lords, in the House of Commons, they're supporters, Brexiteers as well, and members of the public who support Brexit are also big fans of American-style healthcare. Well, this is a great... I watched this today, Bishtan. Yeah, I just wanted to share this video with you guys because I think this is a real eye-opener. Many people still don't know that what American healthcare is really like. And some Americans on the channel will know already what this probably contains.
5 to 100 grand.
$1 million. It's $1 million.
$1 million?
Before this is just the intro. We Scott's dog, thanks so much for that super chat. Max, you had one of your rants. You're right. Give it all these cants. Get off your chest, including your vest, but please put on your underpants. Thank you so much, Wee Scott's dog. Wee Scott's dog is always here to lighten the mood, and thank you to lift us, not just to lighten, but to lift our spirits. Thank you so much, Wee Scott's dog. I needed that. I'll keep the underpants on, I promise, or at least the mankini.
What?
On average, about $2,500.
Ouch.
Literally.
Well, no, we're missing
75 to 100 grand.
$1 million. It's $1 million.
$1 million? What?
On average, about $2,500.
Ouch.
Literally.
I can't tell if this is a joke or not. Mind blown.
I can't even pay for the bus, man.
N95 mask, so like a good one, you know, like one of those dust masks. Yeah. Pack of 5.
Oh God.
So a pack of 5 masks, okay? How much do you think it costs in the United States?
I'd say maybe like $5.
It's about 60.
60.
For a pack of 5 masks?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you being serious?
I am being serious, yeah.
I can't tell if this is a joke or not.
No, I'm being totally serious. It's how much it yes, how much it costs, yeah.
And why is that? Do you know the reason why it's so expensive?
People like making money.
People like making money.
£12 for each. Yeah. Now, nowadays.
Yeah, so a pack of 5 is $60, yeah.
It's made in China.
You've been doing American things, you've been at the NASCAR,
Carl, thanks so much for that super chat. Carl Jones, thank you, very, very kind of you.
you've been to Hooters, and you think you might have got COVID. You're going to do a lateral flow test.
$20?
Yeah, bang on. Yeah, $24 for 2 lateral flows.
Would anyone actually do that?
I have no idea, to be honest, because like here it's for free, right?
Yeah.
The lateral flow test. Well, here I think it's €8. Well, it depends on where you go. So here in Italy it's about €8. In the US it's $24. $24 for a lateral flow test.
I think £2 for.
It's $12 per test.
Oh my God. Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
You feel worse.
Yeah.
You need an ambulance.
Okay.
How much does an ambulance cost? Call out in America.
I don't know, $100?
No. Way more.
Shall I go up?
Yeah, you should go up, yeah.
$200.
Times that by 10.
No.
Yeah, what, like upwards like $200?
About 2,500.
Oh my God. That's horrific.
Yeah.
For an ambulance journey.
On average.
I would love to know, why does it cost $2,500 for an ambulance journey?
About $2,500.
Ouch.
Literally.
And then you just get sent that bill.
Yeah. If you're uninsured, yeah.
Bye. I'm sorry.
So you are an American.
I am, unfortunately. We always like to say get a Uber or a Lyft, don't get an ambulance, because it's going to be a lot of money.
You would get an Uber to the
Oh,
hospital.
absolutely. The ambulances are ridiculous.
So I'd rather be die at home alone.
For a person under 40 who stays in an American hospital for more than 2 weeks, what do you think the average medical bill is?
So the average person staying in hospital for 2 weeks, the average, so some will be higher, some will be lower, but the average for 2 weeks hospital stay in the United States.
I mean, after the ambulance being $2,000, what, 20 grand?
More.
More?
It's way, way more.
10 grand. No.
Way more.
To be honest, I thought I was getting quite well then.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot more.
30 grand.
No, more.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no, I'm deadly serious.
For 60 grand.
75 to 100 grand.
$1 million. It's $1 million.
$1 million? What? What, for like a stay in hospital?
Yeah.
Cost you $1 million?
You know, but we're talking lots of medical care is being given to you here, Ralph. You know, you're being taken care of.
Yeah, you're being looked after, but $1 million. I mean, like, considering here we get it for free.
$1 million.
Oh, shut up. Are you serious?
Yeah.
$1 million.
$1 million.
Million.
$1 million.
That's a lot of zeros.
It's $1 million, yeah. For a very serious case of COVID, yeah, you're in there for a long time.
What, do they not have the gear or something
Who even... How would you even have that money, like?
And it can bankrupt people. Some people are like a broken bone away from just being completely broken on the streets.
The federal government, if you die of COVID, they'll contribute to your funeral costs.
Great.
That's kind of them.
I mean, I guess you kind of get the money back, but...
They're like, yeah, I mean, we'll keep you alive, but it's going to cost you like an arm and a leg, pun intended, and then you're going to die, and here's $9 grand to die.
Have you had to pay for any health-related costs in relation to COVID during the course of the pandemic?
No, I've had COVID and I haven't had to... No.
Sanitizer, but sanitizer isn't like expensive. Soap, like I hadn't had to pay for anything.
That's so if you're broke and you were to like, I don't know, die of COVID, or if you were to have COVID and it was kind of like the kind of severe symptoms, you probably wouldn't afford to survive.
Because I had to self-isolate and I was getting sick pay for self-isolating, which was quite nice.
Free tests on the NHS, yeah. It was a bit difficult getting lateral flows, but I haven't had to pay, so.
My PCR tests that I've taken have all been free ones.
COVID hit, my mom lost her job and we lost our insurance, and then it was very stressful, and my mom's immunocompromised, so it was difficult to be so stressed about it all the time, and to think that like so many Americans are just like in complete fear of like medical costs, and it's insane. I don't know how they can keep on going like that.
For ordinary people, especially for somebody like they don't earn a lot of income, that's a challenge for them in the difficult time. Yeah, yeah, that's unfair.
Wow. And that's what the Tories want. That's what Boris Johnson wants. That's what Nigel Farage wants. That's what Brexiteers want. Many Brexiteers I've encountered online want private healthcare because they say the NHS isn't working. But the NHS is being put under strain by frigging Boris Johnson and the Tories, and they've undercut it over the last 10 years now. The goal is to turn it into an American-style healthcare system, while some in the US, like Bernie Sanders, wants to go in the opposite direction. And it's unbelievable that, that somebody has to pay for a medical... just think of it from a societal point of view. If we don't have to pay for our healthcare, we're more likely to be healthy. Because if you have to pay for stuff, you're going to put it off until it gets to a situation where you can't put it off any longer, and then you're not going to be able to work and you're not going to be able to contribute to society. If your goal is just for people to contribute to society economically. It's a terrible system. It should not exist in the United States. It shouldn't exist anywhere. Johnny, thanks so much for that. Johnny the Silverback Dragon. Max, I watch TYT network in the USA. It's about $4,000 for a month's worth of insulin. It's $600 for an EpiPen. It's fucking ridiculous. I'll say the word. It's fucking ridiculous. It is. My dog has it's not the same, but my dog is diabetic, and I have to buy insulin. But it's not covered under the healthcare system. I have to buy it, but it's about €80, but it lasts like 4 or 5 months. Okay, it's expensive, but it's for a dog. It's not for a person, and it doesn't cost $4,000. It's insane. A month's worth of insulin, $4,000. Now, the reason because of this, why is this happening? Why is it? Because the US government has decided, politicians in Congress voted to stop healthcare providers, the US Department of Health, negotiating with pharmaceutical suppliers. So they can't negotiate. In Canada, they can negotiate, so they're able to get better prices. American hospitals, medical providers cannot negotiate, so they have to buy at the price that the pharmaceutical companies ask. Imagine if you weren't able to negotiate a price. So imagine if you had to buy a car and you were not allowed to negotiate the price. If you're buying a house, you're not allowed to negotiate. If you're buying, and I'm not talking about small quantities, I'm talking about huge quantities, you can't negotiate. Ridiculous. That's why it's so expensive. And let's hope it doesn't happen in the UK. And let's fight against that. Let's raise awareness. Talk about it. When people raise these issues, point to videos like Joe's here, Politics Joe, where they interview people on the street who are flabbergasted by the fact that you have to pay for up to $1 million to stay in hospital. Won't hang on. So guys, I want to say we're almost at the end of the stream for tonight. I want to say massive thank you to everyone who came on tonight. Thanks so much for the super chats. Sorry about my ranting and raving. I know some people liked it, but it just really, some things just trigger me, and I can't hold back, because it really does piss me off, the fact that you have people like Boris Johnson and other people in power who should know better. Boris Johnson in particular, he went through the situation. He went through COVID. He was, saved by the NHS, and then he turned around and stabbed it in the back. And now he's relying on the NHS to reduce these waiting lists, not because he cares about the people, but he cares about himself. And I really hope that they give him the finger. They just say, go to hell. This is for you. Thank you so much for that super chat. Thanks so much. Kind of you. This is for you. Thanks for the work, mate. Thank you for the support. So guys, we'll end on a very high note. I want to show you this comedy video before we finish. So once again, thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. They're greatly appreciated. Thanks to everyone who came on, smashed the like button, and thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job again. And remember, after the stream, if you're on Discord, if you're on Patreon, you're on Discord, we'll have our post-stream chat, which I'll be joining shortly after the stream. So before we finish, we have our one for the road. I hope you enjoy this.
So how did we end up in this war? Well, you remember there was that pandemic? Yes, I've got COVID now. Everyone's got COVID now. The point is, there was a time when we were trying to stop people getting COVID. I can see why. I mean, I'm not a fan. I had Omicron, that was alright, but then we had Sigma and Omega, they were not fun. And then we're now onto the Cookie Monster variant? Yes, I like the way they've gone with Sesame Street now. It makes the end of the world seem a lot cheerier. Big Bird killed my parents. I'm very sorry. The point is, during that time, there was a lockdown, except it turned out that the Prime Minister and his staff were having fairly regular parties. And that was against the rules? Well, that was the question. They set up an inquiry led by Sue Gray, and she was meant to answer it. And did she? She didn't get a chance, because more and more stories of parties came out, to the point where it seemed that no one in Downing Street was ever sober. Right. So some Tory MPs decided that enough was enough. They started talking about a vote of no confidence. Sounds fair? But the Whip's office threatened and blackmailed them by saying that if they supported a no confidence vote, they'd lose funding for their local constituencies. Is that allowed? Not really. Number 10 said there was no evidence of this, but under pressure they set up a new inquiry led by Sue Black, Sue Gray's even tougher colleague. Right, but where does the war come in? I'm coming to that. So, things quietened down for a bit, but then a new scandal erupted. Something about Boris Johnson snogging a nurse when he was meant to be isolating. Gosh. So then the Tory party got even more upset. And at the same time, Vladimir Putin was threatening to invade Ukraine. Plot twist? Quite. So then the government were like, well, you wouldn't have a no confidence vote if we engaged in military action, would you? Really? So they launched a preemptive missile attack against the Russians. But we're not at war. Let me finish. But the missiles were made by a Tory party donor who'd only previously made wooden toys and PPE, so they malfunctioned and landed on parts of Germany, France and Bulgaria instead. That makes more sense. And the EU were like, well, obviously that was a mistake, yeah? But the ERG, who? The ones who seem too mad even for the Tory party. Wow. They were like, no, Europe has always been our real enemy, and the Prime Minister just didn't have the votes without their support, so he declared war on the EU. So all this chaos was caused by the internal politics of the Conservative Party. Yes. What about the other parties? Why didn't they do something? They decided they couldn't be seen to be against the government at a time of national crisis, but they did express strong reservations. That's a lot to take in. But hang on, what happened to Sue Gray? Turns out she never existed.
Wonderful. Well done, Matt Green. So I want to say once again, thanks to everyone who came on tonight. I want to say thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job and everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. So guys, have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. We'll see if Boris Johnson is still Prime Minister or if the calls for him to resign have resurged. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Wear a mask and be careful, guys. Good night. Take care.